Hey everyone, it's Pastor Justin here coming to you today with our Leadership and Transformation cast, where we're going to explore the sacred intersections of calling, clarity, and leadership. I'm your host, Justin Spurlock, and today we're talking about a gift that's essential in ministry and increasingly elusive. That word is clarity. Now, I don't mean the kind of clarity that's just about figuring out what the next step is or boiling everything down to a few bullet points or even creating some polished plan. I mean, soul deep clarity, the kind that reminds us of who we are, why we're here, and what God has already declared to be true. This kind of clarity isn't loud, but it is strong. It doesn't always give you the answer, but it always brings us back to our anchor. And in the work of ministry, in the meetings, the messiness, the moments where you wonder if any of it's working, clarity can be the difference between burnout and baptismal thriving. So let's jump into it. Part one is creation. You're not an accident. Before there was ministry, before there was mission, before there was even a church, there was a God who said, let us make them in our image. That's where clarity starts. Before you were a pastor, an elder, a deacon, a volunteer leader, a parent, a planner, you were an image bearer. You are not a performance. You're not a production. You are not your perfectionism. You are God's creation, and that's enough. Ministry tempts us to prove ourselves. In fact, even when we look at the temptations that Jesus faced in the wilderness, they're all about proving himself to show somehow that we're enough by doing more, fixing more, being more. But unclear leaders live on that treadmill. Clear leaders step off of it. They live from their worth, not for their worth. Second part, we are claimed in baptism. You and I are not our role. If creation tells us that we're beloved, baptism tells us we're called. And not just called to a job, but to a life of witness, a life of wonder, a life of being fully God's. When we baptize someone, we're not just initiating them into church membership, we are announcing their vocation. This person belongs to God, period. This person belongs to God, period. That's true whether you preach every Sunday, whether you volunteer as a greeter, whether you are wrestling through doubts and anxiety, sitting in a chair or a pew. Your baptism didn't give you a task list, it gave you a direction, a way of being, a way of discerning. What does faithfulness look like here, now? In this moment with these people. And when you forget, because we all do, because I do, baptism reminds us again, you are Christ's own. Not because of how Sunday went, not because of what title you hold, but because God has claimed you already, forever. And that's why we have the phrase, remember your baptism. Not because all of us remember our actual baptism, but that we're reminding ourselves and remembering our baptismal call and identity and vocation. Third part, clarity is the bridge between identity and action. So, what does clarity actually do? Because clarity isn't static, it's not just a nice feeling or a theological concept to file away. Clarity moves us, but in the right direction. Think of it like this: clarity fuels presence. Because I know I'm not God. I know I'm not the Messiah. I know I'm not the Savior. Do you know that? I don't have to posture or fix or impress. I can simply be with somebody fully, freely. Clarity sharpens preparation. Clarity sharpens preparation. So last week we talked about presence, preparation, and productivity. When we're clear about who we are, it sharpens our preparation because I know what I'm entrusted with. I prepare from discernment, not anxiety. I plan like someone who's listening to God, not reacting to fear. And then clarity purifies productivity because I'm not working for identity. I can get things done without losing myself. Busyness doesn't get to define my faithfulness, clarity does. Without clarity, we misuse all of it. We show up inauthentically, right? So we're not really present because we are not actually there. We overplan from fear and anxiety, so we're not really preparing. And then we do too much and still feel like it's never enough, and thus we're not actually productive. But with clarity, we can finally say, this is mine to do. It gives us a sense of ownership. It can also say, this can wait. This is not part of my preparation. And then this I need to give away. This I need to release. This is someone else's. And then it purifies that productivity. You and I need to lead from the waters, not the whirlwind. Ministry is always going to swirl around us. The calendar will fill, the needs will stack up, the metrics will always call for more. But your clarity doesn't come from chaos. It comes from creation. You were made in God's image. It comes from calling. You are not what you do. And it comes from baptism. You and I are God's beloved, claim not for our role, but for our relationship. So when the pressure builds, go back to the water, plunge yourself deep in it, let clarity guide you so that how you show up truly is present, how you prepare truly is about the things that are necessary and that are about the next faithful step. And what you do fits congruently with who you are and who you're called to be. Then you're not trying to be perfect. You're not trying to prove something. Instead, you are leading from purpose. Let's be the kind of leaders who live from our baptism, not our burnout. Let's be the ones who remember the water, even when the whirlwind is howling outside. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining me for today's Leadership and Transformation podcast. Until next time, walk in clarity, lead from identity, and remember, you are God's. You and I belong to God, and that's more than enough. Thanks, everyone.